Richard Harvey Cain was born in 1825, at a time when the nation was expanding, but freedom was still a privilege reserved for the few. He grew up the son of a Black father and a Cherokee mother, and from the beginning, he understood what it meant to live between worlds that did not fully claim him. But Cain refused to let the limits of his birth define the reach of his destiny. He found his purpose early in the African Methodist Episcopal Church, where he discovered that a pulpit could be more than a place of worship. It could be a platform for liberation. By the time the Civil War ended in 1865, Cain had become a minister with a voice that carried both spiritual authority and political clarity. He moved to South Carolina, a state still trembling from the collapse of slavery, and stepped directly into the work of rebuilding a people who had been denied everything. He preached, he taught, he organized, and he built institutions that freedmen could rely on. Cain believed that the future of Black America depended on education, political power, and moral courage, and he committed himself to all three. As Reconstruction took shape, Cain emerged as one of the most influential leaders in the South. He helped establish schools for newly freed children, trained teachers, and used his church as a center for community organizing. He traveled from town to town, registering Black voters, teaching them their rights, and preparing them to participate in a democracy that had never intended to include them. His leadership was not loud or reckless. It was disciplined, strategic, and rooted in faith. In 1873, Cain was elected to the United States House of Representatives, becoming one of the most powerful Black lawmakers of the era. When he walked into Congress, he carried with him the hopes of thousands who had never imagined that someone who looked like them would stand in the halls of federal power. Cain used his seat to fight for civil rights legislation, equal access to public transportation, and federal protection for Black voters. He argued that freedom without economic opportunity was just another form of bondage, and he pushed for lands, resources, and federal oversight to protect the rights of freedmen. But his rise made him a target. White supremacists feared his ability to organize, to inspire, and to legislate. They understood that Cain represented something far more dangerous than a single vote in Congress. He represented the possibility of a multiracial democracy. And so they tried to erase him. They attacked the schools he helped build. They burned churches where he preached. They threatened the freedmen who supported him. They spread lies about him in newspapers, hoping to weaken his influence. And when violence failed to silence him, they turned to politics, dismantling Reconstruction piece by piece until leaders like Cain were pushed out of office. As federal protection collapsed, the gains Cain had fought for began to disappear. His speeches were removed from public memory. His accomplishments were minimized. His name was buried under decades of historical neglect. But Cain refused to vanish. Even after leaving Congress, he continued to build. He founded Paul Quinn College, ensuring that education, the weapon white supremacy feared most, would outlive the era. He trained new generations of Black leaders, teaching them that the struggle for justice did not end when the laws changed. It ended when the people were empowered. Richard H. Cain's legacy is not measured by the laws that survived, but by the institutions he built and the lives he shaped. He proved that Reconstruction was not a brief moment of progress. It was a movement led by men and women who believed that freedom required more than hope. It required action, sacrifice, and the courage to stand in the face of hatred. Cain lived his life with the conviction that Black Americans deserved the fullness of citizenship, not the fragments left behind. And even though they tried to erase him, his work endures in the schools he founded, the communities he strengthened, and the history we are reclaiming today. They buried these stories for a reason, because once you know how Black power rose, you can see exactly how it was taken away. And once you see the blueprint, you can recognize every version of it still being used today. This isn't just history, this is the manual. And the fight didn't end in Reconstruction. It just changed clothes. If this episode opened your eyes, don't let the story stop with you. Share it. Talk about it. Challenge the silence that kept these men hidden. This is Black Justice Untold. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe.